Hello, today I am joined by Chris, and he is a developer for Logic Pro X Gaming, and today I just wanted to interview him on a little bit about that. So, hi Chris, so could you start by explaining what you do?
Yes, sure. Thank you for having me. Well, I've got a couple of eggs in my basket right now. I'm pushing for accessibility in mainstream video games. I put up tutorials about accessible music production. Um, I'm learning a bit of coding on the side because I'm trying to get into developing mods that will make more mainstream games accessible to people. So basically just a bunch of stuff in the creative space right now.
Okay, and what do you find hardest about gaming in the blind community? Because we live in such a sighted world.
Okay, good question. So I think one of the biggest challenges, first off, is really getting the sighted community to understand that we can be entertained and benefit from playing mainstream video games because, we're really limited right now to pretty much audio games only, and they can be a bit lacking in features and content, and we can't really share that with most of our friends and stuff. So I feel it's important that that we do everything we can to be part of the conversation and convince people that we can compete if the proper modifications are made. So I guess the hardest thing is just getting in the door, getting those conversations going, getting around well, y'all can't see, so why do y'all need to play video games? Y'all can just play audio games, you'll be fine. And it's harder than you think to get people past that line of thinking.
And I was obviously looking at your pinned tweet, and I saw that you were talking about Minecraft accessibility. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, Minecraft is actually going to be quite the challenge as far as accessibility goes for everyone. Now there are and this might be a little unpopular, but there are certain forms of accessibility that can be implemented that are easier than others in certain situations. So, like for example, if we look at the blindness spectrum, making a game playable by low vision gamers is usually the first step and an easier step than making a game playable for totally blind people. For example, how do you convey the act of placing materials in a three-dimensional space via audio? It's a really hard problem to solve. Because if you think about most audio games, they're linear and they have lots of features that are baked into the core elements of the game that are designed specifically for us. But Minecraft is not like that. So a lot of those features have to be bolted onto stuff that already exists. And so right now, the main push is to get the interfaces accessible, which most of them are, to get screen readers and TTS interacting with more elements of the game. Basically, getting all of the basics in there. And thankfully, the developers are responsive. They're listening to the feedback that we're sending in. And once all of that stuff is done, then we can get to the harder problem, which is communicating all of this information non-visually.
Yeah, completely. And so with this whole Minecraft thing, how do you imagine it to work? Because like when you're choosing blocks, you imagine it to yellow brick, red brick.
Correct. So I like to think of Minecraft as basically a digital form of Legos. You can basically make anything that you can think of as long as you have the skill and patience to do so. Now, some of the harder aspects of the game I've really been thinking about, for example, navigating terrain, because and I'm gonna switch back to the audio game example just because it's a bit easier for me to relate to. When you're navigating the environment of an audio game, it's predictable. You know, you're going to be able to memorize terrain. You're going to be able to basically it never changes. And the problem with Minecraft is the landscape depends on something called procedural generation. And without getting too like ridiculously technical, each world that's generated is going to be different, and as you negotiate the landscape, it's going to be constantly shifting and changing. You have like random drop-offs to deal with, changes in elevation. You have mountain ranges, all sorts of things that need to be negotiated. And so one of the biggest challenges is trying to figure out how to convey all of that information to a player without being overwhelmed. Like there's so much information that's being presented in your environment that I think the best way to make traveling in this game easiest is to figure out how to deliver enough information so that you know where you are and you know what's happening around you, but not too much such that you're only paying attention to navigational information and you've completely checked out of gameplay, because that can be kind of hazardous with some more hostile elements in the game. So I think once terrain navigation is handled, then I think everything else will just kind of fall into place based on those systems.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you for joining me today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
And if anybody wants to find you on social medias, where can they find you?
Sure. I am on Twitter at Logic Pro X Gaming, all one word. I'm also up on YouTube as the same, all one word. Pretty easy to find. And if you're not sure, because Logic Pro is actually a music production software, that's where my username came from. In all of the bios of each of those accounts, it should say something about me being the only blind Minecrafter on YouTube. Shameless plug.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and comment down below. If you would like to get involved with interview, please submit a contact form to www.malachityler.co.uk, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.